بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Kashf al-Murad, and I am not in the town today, so I had to come somewhere and I don't have my facilities and my clothes. We reached the discussion about resurrection, and this is the sixth section of the book. قال المقصد السادس في المعاد والوعد والوعيد وما يتصل بذلك. This section is about resurrection and some of the issues which are discussed by our mutakallimin after Ma'ad. For example, the issue of Wa'ad and Wa'id, which for Mu'tazilites is a principle. One of the 5 principles is this. For us, it's not a principle as such, but again, it's an important issue. And that is about whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should keep his promise and threat. Wa'ad means to promise something good, although wa'ad can be used for threat as well, but when it is used along with wa'id, so wa'id is used for threatening and wa'ad for promising. So if Allah says, for example, this sin is going to be punished, does he need to keep this, or he only keeps his promise of rewarding, for example? So this is an issue that is important. We will discuss it here in this section. Or for example, about the issue of ihbat, which is important discussion, whether good action can be nullified by certain sins or by shirk. Or for example, some people have said that there can be tahatur between good actions and bad actions, so sins and good deeds, they can somehow interact. So issues like this are going to be discussed here. So في المعاد والوعد والوعيد وما يتصل بذلك, and other topics that would be connected with this ma'ad. Okay. This is the title of this section. But the very first thing that Khaja tries to explain in this section is possibility of ma'ad. Because as you know, there are 2 stages for proving ma'ad. One is to say that it is possible. One is to say that it actually happens. So one is امكان المعاد. The second is وقوع المعاد. Of course, although these 2 logically come in a hierarchical order, so first is امكان, then وقوع. Sometimes we may argue for وقوع right away, and when we prove that it occurs, it implies that it is possible as well, because we say أدل دليلا على إمكان الشيء وقوعه. The best reason to show that something is possible is that it has happened, or if you are sure that it's going to happen, so it means that it's possible. So we may have proofs that would prove the necessity of ma'ad and happening of ma'ad. So it also requires that this contingent is possible. But from a kind of hierarchical, logical perspective, for sure, first is that ma'ad is possible. Second is that it happens. There have been people who denied ma'ad because they said it's not possible. Some people may say it is possible, but we don't have reason for its occurrence. But some people may say, no, it's not possible at all. So Khaja rahmatullah alayh first tries to establish that ma'ad is possible. What is wrong? At least you should think that this is probable. Don't totally dismiss this possibility. So, in order to argue for possibility of ma'ad, there are different ways. Khaja rahmatullah alayh mentions 2 points. One is intellectual, second is from text, from the scripture. Because when we reached the topic of the topic of ma'ad after imam and nubuwwah, adl, tawheed, it means that we already have established existence of God and truth of Quran, etc. So sometimes we can use especially for ma'ad, a scripture. We can use dalil naqli, we can use Quran and hadith. But he tries to bring both. He says, this is Khaja, حكم المثلين واحد والسمع دل على امكان التماثل. In logic and philosophy, this is very common idea that we say حكم المثلين فيما يجوز وفيما لا يجوز واحد. First of all, what is مثل? In mantiq, you remember, we said when two things are similar in their naw', they are from the same naw', from the same species, they are called مثلان. So for example, 2 human beings, 2 horses, 2 rose flowers, these are مثلان. متجانسان are those that they share the same genus but they have different differentia, so they are not from the same naw'. For example, horse and elephant, they are not mutamathil, they are mutajanis, because haywan is common genus for them, but their differentia are different. So if we have 2 mithl or 3, 2 or more, means things that share the same naw', and means their haqiqa is the same, because naw' is haqiqat tamme, it has jins and fas, is complete. When 2 things have the same naw', then whatever is possible for each is possible for the other, and whatever is not possible for one is not possible for the other. We say حكم الأمثال فيما يجوز وفيما لا يجوز واحد. If a horse has some quality, the other horse may also have. We don't say it must have happening, because sometimes maybe there are obstacles, etc. But it can, it's possible. Yajuz is mumkin. Jawaz in logic and philosophy is different from jawaz in fiqh. Jawaz in logic and philosophy means possible. It's possible. So if one horse, for example, to make it simple, if one horse can walk, the other horse also can walk. If one horse cannot fly, the other horse also cannot fly, if they are from the same naw'. Now, Khaja says the question of resurrection is that we are going to have, after this world, another world. People are going to be resurrected again. The same body, the same identity would come, and they would be rewarded or punished, etc. If this first world has happened because it was possible and Allah decided to make it, the second world is also possible, and if Allah wants, can happen. Why you say that the first one is possible, the second one is not possible? Why Allah can create us in the first place and He cannot resurrect us in the second place? So, حكم المثلين واحد. والسمع دل على امكان التماثل. Also, سمع, دلیل سمعی, دلیل نقلی, transmitted reasons, means Quran and Sunnah. In the Quran and Sunnah, in the scripture also, we have the argument for امکان التماثل, that these two are similar. Therefore, if they are similar, they are both possible. So if someone says the other world is not similar to this world, therefore حكم الأمثال فيما يجوز واحد وفيما لا يجوز واحد would not apply to the resurrection, we say Quran and Hadith are saying we are talking about the same thing. They have told us that this is the same thing. So we as religious people are not talking about a totally new thing. Quran and Sunnah indicate that it is a similar creation. Not exactly the same, but similar. So Khaja doesn't go into details. We just need to get the main points from Khaja, and Allama explains. So حكم المثلين واحد والسمع دل على إمكان التماثل. Now Allama rahmatullah alayh comes to explain for us details. أقول في هذا المقصد مسائل. In this section 6, there are several issues that we discussed. المسألة الأولى في إمكان خلق عالم آخر, about the possibility of creating another world. واعلم, Allama rahmatullah alayh says, إن إيجاب المعاد يتوقف على هذه المسألة. إيجاب المعاد, to say that ma'ad is necessary. First we have to say it's possible. We have to show that it's possible. Although, as I said, sometimes some arguments maybe directly proved necessity, but we know that from a logical perspective, necessity or happening all rely on being possible. If something is not possible, if someone can prove that something is impossible, then whatever argument you bring, he would not accept. He says, no, it's impossible. You have to question your arguments. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ إِيجَابَ الْمَعَادِ يَتَوَقَّفُ عَلَى هَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ. Please be informed that the necessity of ma'ad, or making ma'ad necessary, depends on this issue. Which issue? المسألة الأولى في إمكان خلق عالم. This issue of possibility of creating another world. فلأجل ذلك صدرها في أول المقصد. صدر يصدر صدورا ثلاثي مجرد is لازم. صدر. But أصدر is متعدي. صدر is also متعدي. And there's a difference between أصدر and صدر. أصدر يصدر إصدارا means to make something happen, to issue something. إصدار. For example, there is an institute, a university, they issue a journal. Say هذه الجامعة أصدرت العدد الأخير من هذه المجلة. أصدر. But صدر means to put at the top, because صدر also means top, head. Here he means this. فلأجل ذلك صدرها في أول المقصد. Because ijab depends on possibility, so Khaja Rahmatullah Alayh has put this at the beginning of this section. وقد اختلف الناس في ذلك. People, not Muslims, not believers, people, including Muslims, other religious communities, and non-believers. ناس. اختلف الناس في ذلك. وأطبق المليون عليه. مليون means أهل الملل, means religious people. Muslims, Christians, Jews, they have إطباق, means they have agreed, إجماع, that this is possible. وخالف فيه الأوائل. But people who are not following any revelation, any tradition, أوائل means earlier people. Maybe meaning, or the reason for calling atheists أوائل is perhaps because they follow ideas of those people who were not educated and were not aware of the teachings of the prophets and messengers. Either they were too early or they were somehow without access, etc. So, people of religious traditions, they all say it's possible. Some of non-religious people, because there are also people who are not religious, but again they believe in resurrection. Even sometimes we have atheists who believe in some form of religious, or even, for example, Hindus, they have some form of reincarnation, etc. But there are some people who may not believe. واحتج المليون بالعقل والسمع. Those who are religious communities, they have argued with عقل and سمع. أما العقل فنقول العالم المماثل لهذا العالم ممكن الوجود. A world similar to this world, the current world, is contingent, is possible. Of course, if you want to be very accurate in discussions about philosophy, I suggested to use possibility for امکان عام and contingency for امکان خاص, because the focus of possible is that it is not muhal, it's not impossible. It can include something which is necessary as well. When we say something is possible, it can mean it's contingent, it can mean also it is necessary. For example, is Allah mumkin? If you mean by mumkin imkan am, yes, because Allah is not muhal. But if you mean mumkin imkan zati, means not necessary, not impossible, then Allah is in this sense not mumkin, because this is only for contingent beings. So if you want to be very precise, depending whether mumkin just means not to be muhal or means not to be muhal and not to be necessary. You can decide whether you want to choose possibility or contingency. Here, the focus is that it is not muhal. So possible is fine. So, أما العقل فنقول العالم المماثل لهذا العالم ممكن الوجود. A world similar to this world is possible to exist. Why? لأن هذا العالم ممكن الوجود. Because this world is ممكن الوجود. It's possible to exist. You see it's existing, so it's possible. وحكم المثلين واحد. The next world and this world are similar. So if this world is possible, the other one is also possible. فلما كان هذا العالم ممكنا وجب الحكم على الآخر بالإمكان. So we must say that the other one is also ممكن. وإلى هذا البرهان أشار بقوله حكم المثلين واحد. خواجة رحمة الله referred to this argument by just saying حكم المثلين واحد. وأما السمع فقوله تعالى أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم. This argument is actually mentioned also in the Quran. And although it is in the Quran, but it is a rational argument. Allah is asking them to think about this issue and find the answer by themselves. Isn't the one who created the skies and the earth capable over doing another time the same thing? يَخْلُقَ مِثْلَهُ, to create something similar to them. If Allah has created this world, this magnificent world, then cannot Allah create again people? بَلَى وَهُوَ الْخَلَّاقُ الْعَلِيمُ. Yes, indeed, He can do that, and He is khallaq, is very creative, and alim, very much aware. So this is the argument for imkan mentioned in the Quran, which, as I said, it's actually a rational, intellectual argument. Then Khaj Rahmatullah alayh tries to answer to some objections. Some people, they try to disprove the possibility of Ma'ad. Khaj says, وَالْكُرِيَّةُ, Kora and Korea. Kora means to be like a globe, to be like a ball, for example, like a globe. وَوُجُوبُ الْخَلَعِ وَاخْتِلَافُ الْمُتَّفِقَاتِ مَمْنُوعَةٌ. Khaja answers to 3 objections by mukhalifin, by those who deny possibility of ma'ad. One is that they say if there is another world, that must be Kora. That must be again circular and round, like, for example, a ball, like Earth, for example, like sun. But they say the whole world should be Kora, circular and round. And then they have problem with this, because they say then these 2 worlds, if they meet each other, what happens, and about distance, etc. We will talk about it later. Allah just after this sentence tries to explain. So this is one argument, that they want to use Kora, that the second word should be also Kora, round, as a basis to refute the idea of Ma'ad. Number 2, they say wujubul khala. vacuum or gap becomes necessary. If there is another world, there will be khala, and they say khala is impossible. The third thing that they make as objection is the next world and this world are similar, but they have to have some differences, and if we don't have those differences, there is problem, and if we have those differences, again there is problem. The problem is that when we have similar elements, similar things, an answer in this world, for example, like fire, water, air, etc., in both worlds, if they function the same way, there is problem. If they don't function the same way, there is problem. This is the objection. Inshallah, we will see it. Anyway, Khajas just refers to these three and say, no, these are mamnu'a, means they are not accepted. There is no proof for them. We don't accept that to believe in the hereafter requires khala, etc. Allah says, أقول هذا إشارة إلى ما احتج الأوائل به على امتناع خلق عالم آخر. So this, short sentence, which is less than a line, is a hint, is a reference to what those awail, those people who are not milliyun, who are not followers of religious traditions, they have argued for impossibility of creating another world. So they have three objections or three so-called proofs or arguments. We want to challenge them. وَتَقْرِيرُهُ مِنْ وَجْهَيْنِ. It can be explained and articulated in two ways. الأول أنه لو وجد عالم آخر لكان كرة. They say if another world exists, that would be also kura, that would be also round, circular. لأنه الشكل الطبيعي, because this is natural kind of image, natural form. The most natural form is round. If it wanted to have a sharp, for example, surface, etc., it's more, artificial. Maybe something must cut it or something. But when it is left to itself, it seems to be round and circular. Of course, this is their argument. We may not accept. فَإِن تَلَاقَتِ الْكُرَتَانِ. So they say, if there is another world, it has to be round. And now, if two worlds are both round, when two things, two oranges, for example, balls, if they meet each other, if there is a kind of tamas, they touch each other. أو تباينتا, or they are not touching each other, they're separate. In both cases, we have some space which is empty. Because suppose you have one circle, another circle, whether they hit or they are separate, you have lots of space around them which is empty. لازم الخلأ. Then there must be vacuum. In their tabi'iyat, in their physics, khala is impossible. al-Mahilli says, وَالْجَوَابِ لَا نُسَلِّمُ وُجُوبَ الْكُرِيَّةِ في العالم الثاني. we don't accept that the second world also must be round. Who said that? You said it is natural, who said that when something is created, it can be created in different forms and shapes. And actually in the nature also, many times things are not necessarily exactly round. Look at mountains, for example. Look at trees, they're not necessarily round. So لا نسلم وجوب الكرية في العالم الثاني. سلمنا. Okay, we compromise. This is one way of, discussion that, is we say salamna means because we want to say this is wrong, but if you accept it, I use it as a basis to refute again your idea, because it's a kind of, جدل. لكن لا نسلم وجوب الخلق. So first, we don't accept that it must become round. Second, suppose it becomes round. Why there must be khala? There must be vacuum. Why you supposed that there would be two oranges that either are hitting each other, touching each other, or separate? No. لا نسلم وجوب الخلا لإمكان ارتسام الثاني, because the second one, the hereafter, can happen inside some of aflak. I have to a little bit explain the concept of aflak. Of course, this is based on their tabi'iyat. Even in tajreed, and following that in Kashf al-Murad, there is a very large portion of the book about tabi'iyat, and they have lots of good discussions. Some of them relate to philosophy and metaphysics, but many of them are just physics. But physics of that time, therefore, nowadays, because time is short and people don't have that much time, they may not study that part. And also because they study physics in, high school or university, etc. Anyway, one idea was that we have aflak, and these aflak, of course, there are different opinions about them. But some people, for example, had the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates aql awwal, and aql awwal creates aql thani and falak awwal. Falak is something like, you can say, a kind of like heaven, or a kind of a space that is very embracing. And sometimes they had the idea that they are from something like, fire. And they have not fire exactly, but like fire. They have their own unsur, they have their own, you can say, material. And also the possibility of moving from a falak to another falak was, very much discussed. So why you are taking things for granted? Why these two worlds, even if we accept that they are round, they cannot be inside something, a falak, that has this and has also something around them. So it's not vacuum. وإحاطة المحيط بالعالم عالمين. So that falak has maybe something like energy or fire. Sukhuna means heat. So there is something under that falak, or inside that falak, like air or like, I don't know, energy that fills this space outside these two. So even if we agree with you that khala is impossible, why you say there must be khala? So you see, we want to say that your proof or your argument is not well developed. You have taken for granted, or you have begged the issue several times. So this is one way of arguing. The other way that they argue athani, because we said min wajhain. The second way is they say it in this way: لو وجد عالم آخر, if another world exists, فيه نار وأرض وغيرهما. Over there also there must be fire, there must be earth or something, with the materials of the earth, like, having soil, etc. وغيرهما, water, air, etc. فإن طلبت أمكنة هذه العناصر or أمكنة هذه العناصر لزم قصرها دائما. If those materials, like fire, like soil, like water, air, if they are left to themselves, they should go and find their place. Because everything has its own natural tendency towards the best place for itself. If it is, for example, water wants to come down. If it is, for example, fire wants to go high. Okay, according to their tabiyat, and which makes sense. So, if, for example, there is water, always wants to come to the lowest place. Of course, this is possible to explain according to gravity. So, these things move naturally to certain places suitable for them. Now, if the other world is also similar and has these things, if they want to come and take the same place that these things take in this world, then we have to always push them, force them away. Qasr. Remember in philosophy we said harakat qasri is against nature, is by force. Fa'il bil qasr. Remember we had fa'il bil qasr. Like when you throw something into air, this is bil qasr, and therefore cannot remain forever there. So in talabat amkanata hadhihi al-anasir, if those things want to get the place of these things in this world, then we have to push them away from this world, because they have to be in this other world. So if the water, fire in the other world want to come to this world, we have to do qasr, always keep qasr. وَإِلَّا, if you say no, they don't want to come here, then he says, why? If they are similar, why they don't want to come to this place? وَإِلَّا اختلفت المتفقات في اتباع في مقتضياتها. Otherwise, those things which are similar in tiba, tiba is plural for taba. So things which are similar in tabi'ah, in nature, why they have differed in muqtazayataha? Why they require different things? Why they don't want to be in their own place, in the place of these things in this world? Wal jawab. لما لا يجوز أن يكون العالم الآخر مخالفا لهذا العالم في الحقيقة. One is that why the next world is not different from this world in حقيقة, means in nature, although it has to be similar, but similar to what extent? You see, you have sometimes two horses, but at the same time that they are horse, they can be very much different. Their strengths, their power, their shape, their color, their size can be very much different. Sometimes you wonder, are they both the same? Cats, dogs, I don't know, wolves. When it comes to human beings, of course, very obvious, human beings are so different that even Mullah Sata says they are not no واحد, they are anwa. So one possibility is that maybe that world doesn't have the same all these materials and all the places that these materials in this world want. This is one. You have to prove this. Number two, salamna. Suppose we say, okay, no. They are similar, very similar. لما لا يجوز أن يكون المكانان طبيعيين لهما. Why? The same things, if they exist in both worlds, why? They cannot have their own place, which is natural for them, in each world. Water of this world goes to its own place. Water of that world goes to its own place. Why it has to come to this world? I think it's very clear, actually. Yes, fire goes, for example, to air. Go high. But it doesn't need to come here and go high. It can go high in its own world. So this is also not acceptable. Then Allah says, فهذا ما خطر لنا في تطبيق كلام المصنف عليه. Because Khaja was very brief. He said, اختلاف المتفقات ممنوعة. So Allah says this has come to our mind. هذا ما خطر لنا في تطبيق كلام المصنف. So because he wants to be very fair and to do justice, he says, this is what I have understood from the text of Khaja. Maybe someone has other explanation. Normally, because Khaja has other books also, with the help of other books, they can clarify. But here it seems that Allama was not 100% sure. So he says, this is what has come to our mind when we wanted to explain what he said. So we explained it in this way. We applied it to this argument, to this point. Okay, so this is al-Mas'alatul Ula. The second mas'ala, inshallah, we discuss it next week, is في صحة العدم على العالم. Because someone may say, okay, it's possible to have another world, but this world, why cannot remain forever? And why you say that it should be followed by another world, for example, the hereafter? Maybe this world remains forever and remain this world forever. So we have to show that this world has an end. We will discuss this, inshallah, in the next week, bi'iznillah. Walhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاكم الله خير شيخنا الكريم. I don't know if there are any questions. I don't see any questions logged or in the chat.
You are.
Yeah, there is only thanks.
Thank you. جزاكم الله خيرا. May Allah bless you.
جزاكم الله خير شيخنا. If you would like to conclude with dua, that would be great.
Inshallah. At the beginning, when I was talking about what Allah says, so it came to my mind that how great it would be that inshallah Allah gives us tawfiq to meet Allah and Khaja inshallah in the hereafter and listen to them themselves inshallah. May Allah grant us tawfiq to be with such scholars inshallah in dunya and akhirah inshallah. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم وبالقرآن المستحكم وبفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا أرحم الراحمين يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك. Oh Allah, please give shifa to all brothers and sisters who are ill. Right now, there are many people that we know, and there are much more that we don't know, that suffer from COVID and other illnesses. We pray to Allah to give shifa to all of them, quick and complete shifa and recovery, inshallah, to all people who are ill. And we request Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us shifa with respect to the illnesses that we also may have in our body or soul. We ask Allah to send in this day of Jummah His rahmah and maghfirah to all mu'mineen and mu'minat who have passed away, especially those who have rights upon us. We ask Allah to bless our parents who are alive with health and dignity and joy, and to please them with us, and those who have passed away to be pleased with us and to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our behalf, and to be receiving His utmost mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all believers, especially Muslims, to be able to find their true position in this world, to be witnesses for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about justice and truth, shuhada lillah bil qist. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to honor us to be with Imam, who is a shaheed over us, so that we can be with him, we can improve ourselves under his guidance, and inshallah keep him happy also with us. May Allah be with you and inshallah with your family, and I hope inshallah you will have a great time. التماس دعاء.
جزاكم الله خير شيخنا الكريم. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم. في أمان.
أحسنتم.